This time on Poll Hub, it's our last episode of 2024, and we are going out with a holiday-themed poll. As we always do this time of year, we asked Americans about their plans, wishes, and expectations for the year to come and the holiday season. And this time there are some real surprises. Then there's been a long history of older men dating and or marrying younger women, the May-December romance. But in the U.S., the trend has been towards partners being much closer in age than in the past. We are looking to understand why. And we finish with our final fun fact of the season. And wait a second, it's not fun. Hey, who chose this one? The Grinch? And hi, everybody. Welcome to Poll Hub. I'm JD Depp.
I'm Barbara Carvalho.
I'm Merritt Griffith.
I'm Hunter Petro.
And I'm Lee Marangom.
So, happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays to you, Jay.
We do an end-of-the-year poll every year. We ask different questions. A little bit of fun after a long year of very serious questions we ask. So, Mary, I'm going to give you kind of the choice here to pick where you want to start with our fun question.
Well, as I think we talked about previously, one of my favorite parts of the holiday season is watching holiday movies. And so we did ask a question whether or not Americans would rather star in a holiday movie or in a holiday song. And what we found is that 72% of Americans would prefer to star in a holiday movie rather than be featured on a holiday music single. 26% clocked in with that option and 2% were unsure, which I guess, makes a little bit of sense. But what about you, Lee?
Well, tough choice here because I certainly would not be able to be a participant in a holiday song. And the holiday movies, which I'm forced to watch every year, and you know which ones they are, White Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life, et cetera,
Hang on, Lee. You always say that you love watching White Christmas.
Well, there's parts of it. There's some scenes. If Danny Kaye wasn't in it, I would not be watching it at all. Anyway, but I think if I had a choice and had the ability, I'd go with the smaller group here. I'd rather be out there humming along in the elevators of America, as the background music. Sure, I could. I wouldn't mind doing that. And I know, Barb, you're going to say the same thing, aren't you?
Well, it's really interesting. We put this question together, and I think we've actually asked it in the past. And there weren't a lot of questions about the questions. But this time around, we had this incredible debate of the preposition, whether it was in or on a holiday song. And so apparently this has a very different meaning. If you are in a holiday song, well, you could be one of, Santa's reindeers. And you don't have to sing in that sense, Lee. And I don't know if that would have changed your opinion on this question.
Okay.
But on then suggested that you are part of the performance. So a teachable moment here for pollsters when even trying to construct fun polls that language can mean different things to different people.
And Barb, what is your answer? That was really a denial. I mean, what do we have here?
I think I'd go with the song, whether in it or on it.
Yeah. All right.
I would too, which is weird. But I think that whole question about the song and in or on has to do with that we, in our generation, probably think of music as something you listen to. And I don't think that's what people that are not all that much younger than us think about music as. It's something that they see. The biggest place that people listen to music is YouTube, right? So
right.
I think that has something to do with the in and the on thing. But Lee, I was thinking about this, the movie and the song. Why can't we combine it? You love musicals. Why can't we have you star in a Christmas musical? You could do both.
I could be along with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. There could be a third.
Well, this year we clearly reached a tipping point on the in and the on issue.
So we asked another question, which had a pretty big gender gap. We asked whether or not Americans would prefer to get one big holiday gift or get 10 small holiday gifts. And the way that Americans overall clocked in is half. 50% would prefer to get one gift, while 48% would prefer to get a plethora of smaller gifts with 48%. So there's a divide there. But when we look at gender, we see that a majority of men would prefer to get one large gift. And women are a little bit more divided. A slim majority would prefer to get a group of smaller gifts, and 47% would like to get one large gift. So why don't we start with Barb? Where do you fit into all this?
Well, it's funny. I think what came to mind when I heard that question was kind of a big box or a little box. And perhaps, that wasn't really what you were trying to conjure up. So I could clearly, I mean, really good things come in little boxes. And so, yeah, I'd probably, go with the majority of women and saying, 10 little boxes could be really fun.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I really have much thought about this. Maybe this is just me and my husband, but we barely give gifts anymore. I mean, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Not that Christmas isn't, fun and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. We just bought a new mattress. It was expensive. That's a Christmas present. I mean, it came in a very big box. Yeah. So
I hope we came with a bow.
yeah, I don't know. I think of that question as a question. If you'd asked me when I was 10, I would be very excited to answer it. And I'm not, I don't even know how I would have answered it then. But now I don't know. I'm not sure that I would have really, I don't care.
Wow.
It sounds bad, but I don't really care.
Okay, well then I'll return.
Nothing in your Santa stocking.
Yeah, I'm going to re-gift whatever I was buying for Jay. But all right, so here's the deal with me. This goes back again to, like you said, Jay, childhood. We celebrated Hanukkah. You got 8 relatively small presents, 1 for each night. And I think in my adulthood, I would prefer to get everybody I know, get together, put one big gift, Yankee tickets, under my Hanukkah bush. And go for the what you said the men prefer. That's one big gift.
This sounds very similar to your birthday wish list.
They are similar. I'm desperate.
Well, at least you are consistent and not very hard to shop for, Lee.
No. I'm looking at all kinds of Yankee paraphernalia in front of me, which is very honored, including my Yankees seat sitting next to my Yankee table. I mean, there's all kinds of things here.
All right, so let's shift gears just a little bit. And here's the question. Would you rather stay home during the holidays or travel during the holidays? So 3 in 4 Americans say they'd rather stay home, whereas 1 in 4 say they'd prefer to travel. Barb, let's start again with you.
Oh, hands down, stay home. I think if we, dive down into the data a little bit, the only people that, want to hit the road are younger folks. And can't blame them. They're probably heading home somewhere or to, someplace to family and friends.
But even that's a minority. It's even that. It's only about a third of even those folks. The younger people want to travel. So
no, curling up and being just kind of cozy in the house with all the Christmas and holiday goodies. I think is the top of my list.
It's the worst time of year to travel. And everybody says that. Even if you're traveling and you want to travel, you're still like, oh, it's terrible. But, I like going to grandma's house or whatever it is. But I don't think anybody wakes up about to head to the airport or get in a car for a 10-hour drive in the holiday season and say, yes, this is a great time to travel.
I would say it depends where you're going and who you're going to see. So I think there's only one place I would happily travel to, and that's Dallas, Texas, and to visit our friends Sandy and John Sparks. And so that's what I will be doing. We're very careful which day we do travel on. We try to kind of like be on the off days such as they exist. But that's other than that, it's close to home and hear about all the traffic jams.
We stay pretty close during the holiday season. We go to my mom's, which is just a couple blocks away, but it's so insane in the weeks leading up to Christmas that we have an unspoken tradition in our house, which is the day after Christmas, we just hang pretty much. The kids play with their toys. We watch TV, we eat leftovers, and we just want to be homebodied, like Jay said. And, I would prefer to just stay home, watch Christmas movies, and bake Christmas cookies. That would be my preference during the holiday season.
So we did ask one other not so fun holiday question. And it doesn't have to be unfun. It's just we always do look ahead in these year-end polls, and we ask what people are looking ahead to in the new year, 2025, right? And so this year we asked, as we do, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the year going forward? We've asked this every year. We've got trend on it. This year, 56% of people said they're optimistic about 2025. Last year, 40% said they were optimistic. This is the kind of jump that is pretty unusual year over year in polling. And Barb, I want to start with you because of that. We don't see 16 percentage point changes year over year very often. What is going on here?
No, absolutely. It is, as you would say, statistically significant. And it was a very large jump, I think, in perceptions and at least hopes for the new year. We did have a change election. I don't know how much of that had to do with the numbers that we're seeing, because what we are also seeing in our poll is that, still the majority of people, nearly around 6 in 10, do feel that the country is going in the wrong direction. That was about the proportion before the election. It is the proportion after the election. So it doesn't seem to be related to that. But, we have struggled through some, tough, economic times. Some people this year, inflation is certainly a little bit lower and people are feeling more optimistic. And maybe that has to do with a change in an administration, or just really has to do with, it's got to get better, guys. It's just got to get better.
Yeah, and we don't have an election ahead of us to suffer through. So I think that people are maybe a little bit optimistic because it's all now in the rearview mirror, win, lose, or draw. I mean, it's like we now have a little bit of a respite, which is something I think a lot of people are kind of happy with, because I think people were suffering from political exhaustion during the last year or so. And now that's no longer the case. Maybe that's part of it.
Well, Poll Hub listeners are familiar with our references to a gender gap, but they are less likely to hear us refer to the age gap, especially in reference to relationships. But that's exactly what we're talking about today, age gap relationships and why they may be falling out of style. An age gap relationship, to begin with, is a romantic relationship where the partners have a significant age difference. The age gap is usually at least 10 years, but the exact number can vary based on certain factors. Let's be clear, age gap relationships aren't abnormal. According to a May 2022 Ipsos poll, 39% of Americans claim to have been in a relationship where the age gap was 10 or more years. And it's not as if people are massively holding back from age gap dating. That same Ipsos poll showed that 57% of U.S. single adults say they would be open to dating someone 10 or more years older than they are, and 49% say they would date someone 10 or more years younger than they are.
If you're sensing a but, you're right. There's been an interesting trend since the 1880s. The share of marriages in which the husband is several years older than the wife has fallen significantly. And since 2000, marriages where the wife is significantly older than the husband have also become more rare. According to a Pew Research analysis of the most recent census data and the American Community Survey, 51% of opposite-sex marriages had spouses who were 2 years or less apart in age. That's up from 46% in 2000. And there's been a decline since 2000 in the proportion of men who are 3 or more years older than their wife. That figure stands at 40%, which is down from 43%. Slightly fewer women, 10% compared with the 11% in 2000, are 3 or more years older than their husband. So let's jump into our time machine and set the dial to the release of the 1880 census data and take a look at just how much these trends have changed. 62% of marriages had a husband who was 3 or more years older than his wife, and 6% of marriages had a wife who was 3 or more years older than her husband. Here's the catch. Only 31% of marriages in 1880 had spouses who were the same age. Remember, that number is at 51% as of 2022. To help us expand upon all of this a little more is Dr. Haley Dillon, who's a cognitive psychologist and professor of psychology. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Dillon.
Hey, no problem.
So I was just wondering if you could expand upon this change in trend a little bit, just to start. Why are these age gap relationships sort of, at least in this perspective, on the downward trend? And we're seeing, same age marriages on that upward again.
Well, I'm honestly hoping that one of the reasons would be that a lot of the further back in history age gap relationships where the man was significantly older were more due to the fact that young women got sort of married off. So, I mean, like in my grandma's day, she was silent generation.
Silent greatest generation.
Yeah. She was born in the 20s. She was 12 years younger than her husband. And she was almost considered an old maid when she got married at 23. I am 37 and unmarried. So kind of glad I don't live in that time. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to look at the data between even just a couple of years ago to now, because it seems like women, at least, are much less likely to put up with age gap relationships where the male is older. I know that personally, I've seen a lot of anecdotal information, so it's, not super important, but still, women are really like calling it a red flag these days, much more so than even a decade ago.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's such a red flag?
Well, I think it is a red flag when the man is older, more so. And that's because, okay, I've got a couple of different reasons. First of all, there's the evolutionary psychology theoretical background, which would explain the age gap relationships, which is that men are always looking for the most fertile, young, can provide him the most offspring woman. So it would make sense that 50-year-olds are still interested in 20-year-olds. Whereas if you think about a 50-year-old, and a 20-year-old, that's kind of icky. So that's definitely why it was more standard, especially when people had far more children. And then there's the problem of sort of preying on younger women because either they follow this like Andrew Tate nonsense, saying like guys who like their wives are gay, has said things like, you have to get a very young girl. I mean, he's also sex trafficking teenage girls. You have to get a very young woman when you're older because you can shape them to be submissive and you can sort of create the wife you want. It's kind of like, oh, if they're 20, they're Play-Doh, but if they're 35, they're bitter old rocks. And then the other reason that a lot of age gap relationships exist, I think still, again, I'm talking about the males being older, is due to the fact that, I mean, it's somewhat similar to the Tate thing, but it's a little bit different. Some men find that they can't really date their age group because the women are aware of what they're doing. They aren't as easily manipulated. And so they go for younger women because if you're 35 and 30-year-olds won't date you, maybe 21-year-olds will. But yeah, I did want to talk about some exceptions that I've noticed in age gap relationships. When the people don't know each other's ages, when they first hang out and spend time together, especially if it's kind of a lot, it seems much more acceptable. As a psychologist, at least, it seems more acceptable because it doesn't seem like anyone was grooming anyone. No one was preying on it. It wasn't on purpose. Also, to add to that, neurodivergence plays a part in age gap relationships. If both people are neurodivergent, it is more likely that an age gap relationship isn't something that is underhanded or manipulative. It's really just like two people who don't fit in with a lot of people, fit in with each other, and as a result, end up dating people of various ages.
And do you think that age gap relationships, all of them, are this sort of manipulative behavior? I know you talked about...
No, absolutely not. I mean, literally one of my best friends is at least 10 years older than her husband, which was hilarious because I didn't know that. And then I found out he was younger than me and I'm younger than her. So I was like, whoa. But yeah, no, I think that the reason that they're going down is that people perceive them as manipulation and they're not always manipulative. People click for a number of reasons. Like a 35-year-old man meets a 25-year-old girl, doesn't know she's 25, and she doesn't know that he's 35, I don't think that is manipulative at all. But I think that when men go seeking younger partners, it is incredibly manipulative.
And could you say that the opposite could be true for women who are older in an age gap relationship?
I think that when older women seek out younger men, unless we're talking about, scary teacher-student thing, it's honestly, the fact that some people look their age and some people don't. I have a friend who, I asked him if he was just into older women because he's told me about a couple of women that he's been with and they've been older than me and I'm already older than him. And he said, nah, I think it's just because I look older. So that's definitely a possibility.
Thank you, Dr. Haley Dillon, cognitive psychologist and professor of psychology. I really, really appreciate you coming on and joining us today. This was a really eye-opening conversation.
Fabulous. Anytime.
So the fun fact, as Jay indicated at the top, was a little bit of a bah humbug kind of fun fact. So it's the last one of the year. We're not trying to be, what is it, a coal in the stocking, a
Lump of
black
coal,
coal.
Grinch.
Yeah. Yeah, all those things. It's just kind of interesting as a counter. And Shell Oil released this, which I thought was kind of interesting. In the year 2000, we found it from the Roper Archives, where we find so many of these fun facts. And this one was, I'll be curious about what you guys have to say about this. In your opinion, which of the following would you say is the worst thing about winter holiday season? And number one nationally was shopping in crowded stores or malls at 52%, putting on extra weight, 19%, feeling lonely, 9%, social pressure, act happy, 6%, and spending time with relatives, 2%. Not sure, 12%. So they don't have anything downside there. Let's start with Mary. Where are you? Where's your pain point for the holidays?
None of the above. It's stress. It's just the overall stress. I alluded to earlier the amount of craziness that goes on. I do dislike going to shopping malls, but I've sort of alleviated that by doing most of my shopping online. And so that pain point is gone. But I like the holidays. A couple of years, including this, have been a little bit more stressful just because of the proximity between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So it puts a little extra stress on the process. But I really don't fit into any of these boxes because I really enjoy Christmas.
Good. I'm happy. I'm happy that is the case, and with your family, that's kind of a cool thing to do. Jay, what do you got here?
So one, I'm surprised that traveling is not on here because we just talked about that, right? Nobody likes to travel during the holidays. I like the holidays. I mean, I partly because I don't travel. People come to us generally. I do think this is another one of these questions that if we asked it today, I can almost guarantee you 52% aren't going to say crowded shopping malls because
they don't
shopping,
go there.
Right?
They don't.
So I think it would be very different now. Putting on extra weight actually might be the number one. But no, I'm with Mary. I mean, how can you complain about getting a week off from work and sitting around and eating good stuff and getting presents? I'm sorry. What is, bah humbug? Forget about it.
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty lucky to get the time off during the holidays, and we don't have to draw long and short straws either. Marist College is pretty generous in terms of making sure all our holidays during the year kind of end up in one place.
Yeah, but Barbara, I do recall many years ago, election cycles ago, and I'm not sure which one it was, the Iowa caucus was, I believe, on New Year's Day, or
I think it was 2012.
Yeah, and so
don't quote me, but I think it was 2012 because I was planning my wedding.
Yeah, I remember.
There was 2008 as well, because I spent New Year's Eve in the Des Moines Hilton with all of the rest of the media. We went from room to room, from party to party, because we were all there, because the very next, it was the second, wasn't the first, because it's a federal holiday. The second was the Iowa caucuses.
Yeah, I remember seeing the results of our Iowa caucus poll while I was having dinner. But anyway, Barb.
The holiday dinner.
Yeah.
But there are lots of folks who are not lucky to have the day off, but hopefully still get a chance to celebrate during this time as well. And I had a little trouble, with the choices, and I think perhaps, Jay, you're right. They're a little bit dated, but I agree with Mary. There's no stress there. There's also, the thing that came to my mind was the weather. And I'm not sure why, but, because I do like to have some decorative snow around, but, sometimes it's pretty brutally cold and icy. And when you do need to either travel, even if it's not far, or participate in any activities outdoors, the weather can be kind of tough. But I would overall agree with you guys and just say this is a wonderful time of year. And I do miss the excitement of this time when we turn the page on the new year, and at least in New York, have to face down January and February and sometimes March before we get out of the winter blues.
Yeah, and the horrible joke that's circulating that Aaron Judge will be helping drop the ball at New Year's Eve at Times Square, because we all remember him dropping the ball in the fifth inning.
Oh, no, Lee. No.
Hubbub to me. I'm going to end this with the one thing that I fear is putting on extra weight during the holidays. And the way to avoid that is don't eat the first cookie, because it's never the last. And so we wish everybody everything you wished for, and also avoid the things you wish not to happen.
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. Thanks
Yeah,
for listening.
Yep. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
That'll do it for Poll Hut this week.
Poll Hub is produced by the Marist Poll at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Mary Griffith is our executive producer. Casey Schaff is our production supervisor.
The Poll Hub team includes Hunter Petro and Neil Viswanathan.
If you enjoy Poll Hub, please consider leaving a review.
Positive reviews help other listeners like you find us.
If you'd like to learn more about polling and survey science, check out the Marist Poll Academy, our free online learning portal.
If you have questions for us, tweet them at us at Marist Poll.
Remember, you can always tell your smart speaker to play Poll Hub.
And with any luck, it'll cooperate.
Finally, wherever you listen to Poll Hub, there is a subscribe button.
Click it, and the latest episode will be ready for you in your podcasting app as soon as it's released.
We'll see you next time.